Hey guys, welcome to Jen's Creativity Corner. Today I'm going to show you how to make this adorable little picnic set. I didn't have a pattern, so I made up my own. Let me show you how to do it. Very basic sewing. Anyone can do this. One thing that I love about this is it is completely washable. The fabric can be washed. The dishes can be cleaned in the dishwasher. It's just very easy cleanup and able to be used time and time again. So the dishes that I got here is just this little set available at Walmart for $5. I used everything but the larger trays in the back that have different compartments. And I will say a tricky thing is that the cups are slanted. That's probably the hardest thing about figuring out my own pattern. So here we have the pictures of all of the pieces that you're going to do. All except for what is on the bottom left, you're going to want 2 of each of these cut out. What you're seeing there is my basic outside pattern, and then I have a different pattern fabric on the inside. And here's just an idea of how these things are going to be used. So we have on the top left an inner flap, so it covers up the plate and the plate pocket, velcro for the handholds, or I guess you could just say handles, and then the actual strips for the handles, the center piece, which it has the wings that extend beyond that closing flap on the right. So they will fold in and just kind of burrito everything safely inside. So I'll show it to you, just giving you an idea here. And the measurements are down below in the description box. First, we're going to start off by making the handles. And as in this picture here, it's kind of showing you where you are going to sew. So the little ones in the middle, those you're going to sew 3 sides, keeping one of these smaller sides open to flip it inside out. And then on the longer strips for the handles, you're just going to fold those over and sew them into a tube, and I'll show that to you right now. Here is one of the handles. I just put the nice side of the fabric facing in, folded it over, and again, just stitching it into a basic tube. Nothing too crazy here. And then turning it inside out is definitely the hardest part. You can use a chopstick or a pen, or in this case, I was using a seam ripper with its cover on, and just getting it so the nice side of the fabric is facing out. Now this is where we're going to attach the Velcro. You only need this for one of the 2 handles. Again, sewing on 3 of those edges, having the nice side of the fabric on the inside, so that way you can turn it out and have nice seams. And this one is definitely easier to turn inside out. Make sure you use a chopstick or something to kind of poke the edges out. And ironing it down is a good idea as well. And then we are going to attach the Velcro. So we're just going to stitch on that first piece on the finished edge. And then this is how it is going to be put together as kind of an enclosure to keep everything together. So the Velcro needs to be put on opposing sides like this. For this pattern, you can see I kind of tucked up the unfinished side over there, so it just has a nicer edge. And while we're sewing it to that little tab, we're also going to sew it into the middle of one of the handles. That way, when you put the handles together, you can just wrap the Velcro around it. Both of the handles will stay together. Just like so. And then once you're done with this, honestly, with any of the pieces, I recommend highly to go around, just stitch around the edges. It gives it a nice finish. It makes it last better going through the wash. So the next thing that we're going to do is sew the top 2 left items here, the plate pocket and the inner flap, which covers the plate. This just shows where they will be, so you can see in the middle is just the pocket that you'll slip the plate into, which the utensils are also in there, as well as a napkin. And then on the left is the flap that you will just flip right over, helping to enclose it. So we're not going to sew those to the big piece right now, we're just going to sew them independently. Again, I have 2 different kinds of fabric. This is where I'm going to sew them together. And as shown in this diagram, you're going to sew 3 of the 4 sides, leaving one edge raw so you can turn it inside out. That's going to be one of the long sides. So once we turn those inside out, we're going to attach the plate pocket first. So you're going to attach it to the center piece. As you can see here, the fabric is facing the same way. And I'm stitching the raw edge, but then I'm going to flip it over. I wanted to do it this way as contrast. You obviously could do it differently. You have the other side facing. Then I'm going to stitch up the sides, and then you are also going to include the ribbons that go along with the bowl. So you can see here, once it is attached, I've got these ribbons. There's 4 of them, and they just go around the edges. So you grab 2 on one corner, 2 on the other corner, and tie them together. It works great. And make sure on any ribbons that are included on this to use some fray stop on the edges. I'll link down to that below where you can get some of that. It is necessary. So once you've got those pieces on there, we are going to attach the closure flap. You're going to take that piece on the right and we are going to stitch it. Again, pattern sides facing each other. Now I will talk at the end about how I recommend doing it differently. I'm just going to show you right now what I did do. So you're going to want to take very careful measurements to make sure it's in the middle. And you're going to be doing the exact same thing on those 2 fabrics to also the other side, whether it's the inside or the outside. You're going to have identical pieces. So you can see here, stitched it together. So that's going to be the inside. We're going to call it the shell, and then there's the outside shell. So when they're sewn together, turn inside out, that's how it's going to go. The inner flaps are going to go together, and then as you can see in this picture where the X's are, we're going to sew in some ribbons as we sew in the shells together. You're also going to be sewing on that left flap and one of the handles. I'm sorry I didn't include better footage of this. I didn't realize that I hadn't, so I hope it explains it well. Patterns are facing each other on the inside, pinning it, and then you are going to keep the only portion open is going to be on the very right hand side, which is going to be the handle side of that outer flap. On the left hand side, you are going to have to carefully sandwich together, right, the outer and inner shell, as well as that plate flap, one of the handles, and ribbons for the final closure. There's also going to be the other ribbons that I noted, so you'll see it as it all comes together. I don't know if I'm over explaining or under explaining. I'm sorry. I'm very new at sewing, and I just thought it would be fun to share this project. So if you have any feedback, be kind, but please let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, moving forward, once we do have it all stitched together, I did pin the ribbons down just so I wouldn't accidentally get them caught up in the sewing of the edges, so that's an idea. But turning it inside out, again, we've got the plate that goes in the pocket, the bowl that gets tied up, and I really didn't have a good way of securing the cups, so they're just going to be held in by the side flaps being closed. So I've got these 2 here. And then that final flap goes up. Now on this edge, this is going to be the final sewing. We need to attach that handle and also the ribbon that is going to tie to the other side where it was already sandwiched in. So just folding it over, pinning it well, and then stitching down it. And once you've got that done, you're going to want to stitch around all the edges. Again, just like the handles, make sure it stays nice and secure when you get it washed and gives it a nice finished edge. Let me go over some things that I would recommend doing differently as well and what I improved. I did make 2 of these, as you can see here on the fireplace. So the left one was the first one. It's a little more floppy. It's just got one little ribbon at the top closing it. I decided the second time to add a couple more ribbons for more security, and then it does have inside of it some stabilizer, and that helps it to just look a little bit better, a little bit more crisp. The other thing that I would definitely do differently is, as you can see on this picture, is add another rectangle of fabric here to connect the 2. If you sew it as I did, it gets really bulky around the corners, and I think it just makes that flap on the right just a little too tight. So if you add an extra piece of fabric, and just like the rest of them, you're going to have an inside and outside, and you can pre-sew it, turn it inside out, but that way you can slip it inside of either respective side. Again, I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry guys, this is not the best. This is like my 5th time trying to voice this over and explain it, and part of me wanted to give it up, but I still wanted to share this project with you. So if you have any questions, please ask me down below and I'll try to make some sense of it. Like I said, I did make some fabric napkins that I also tuck in with a cutlery under the plate. If you want to check out a separate video on that, that is much easier and much better explained. You can see the napkins there on the right hand side. And it's just a fun project. It takes a little bit of work, especially if you're trying to follow my crazy directions maybe. But as you can see here, you can wrap them around a picnic basket where you have the food, or just hold them separately and take out with you. When you get home, throw the dishes in the dishwasher, throw the fabric portion in the washing machine, and you are set to go. Thank you so much for joining me here on Jen's Creativity Corner. I'd love to know if this is something you would want to tackle. If you have any other questions, again, let me know, and give this a thumbs up if you made it to the end and you thought it looked cool. So thanks again. Have a great day, guys.